So Bart, I wanted to take the time, of course, to thank you very much for allowing us to see all the wonderfulness that you have down there. It's greatly appreciated. I appreciate your time that you're taking, and Anthony, of course, for allowing us to share something as special as that with everybody.
Yeah,
We have some very interested people that are on the phone, on the link with us. In fact, one of the fellows here, Sean, says that he knows you and I think races your children in some of the races with some of your kids in the karting. So,
okay.
So again, thank you very much for this. So obviously the main thing that we want to see is the Ford, the car that Anthony acquired. Do you want to give us a little background of how that came about and how he was able to find it and get it here?
Yeah, well, he had been looking around, like he often just looks on various auction sites. And he was looking at a European auction site and came across the car. The car happened to be in BC. So he got in contact with the family, and he'd been dealing with some people. I guess the family had been dealing with some people overseas and wasn't going smooth. So he gave him a call and basically said, yeah, we'll take it. And there wasn't any problem. So it set all the pieces into motion.
So the car was already here in Canada, so that makes the transportation a lot easier, and obviously makes the seller a lot more agreeable to do something that's available locally. So that's great.
Yeah.
And I know how Anthony would deal. It would be just say yes, and I'll take care of everything else, you know, sort of thing.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, basically. Yeah, we'll get it done and we'll figure it out.
yeah,
So,
exactly. So that's great. So the model, the RS200, is this one of the customer ones, or this is one of the production car ones?
So this is the it's a production car.
I meant is it one of the racing specs, or is it one of the
production car?
Okay.
Yeah, it's actually a racing spec car. So within the street vehicles was 20 model that were built, had more that the Evos had, and this is one of the 20.
Okay.
You still there?
Yeah, you're breaking up a little bit in the middle of those bars, but
okay.
Okay. So tell us that again. We missed some of that. So which one is this?
Sure. So within the street cars, there was 20 Model S's that were built, and the Model S's had more of the equipment that the Evos had. So it's got the better transmission and more of the equipment. It has the roll cage in it, and a little bit better motor in it.
Okay, so that was one of the things I was going to ask. You know, the transmission is one of the down or the weaker points of the RS200, right? Obviously, for many years, this car was the fastest 0 to 60 or 0 to 100. I think it had the world record for 1.9 seconds, I believe, in full Evo trim.
Yeah.
And I do remember that the transmission was one of the things that was sort of like a little bit more difficult on that particular car.
Yeah.
So Anthony, he brought it in from BC. Has it been out? Has he tried it anywhere yet, or so far it's just being inspected and checked out?
Yes.
Yeah, hold on a second.
Originally owned it. He had agreed to bring and sell 20 of them for Ford. And this was his personal car. And it has been sitting in storage for a lot of years. So it hasn't been running in a while, and I haven't bothered to fire it up just yet.
Okay.
I want to go through it and obviously like kind of drain and prime everything and do things kind of right. Yeah. So I'm going to take my time on it. And then it's been sitting a lot. So there's just a lot of stuff that maybe needs to be kind of fussied up and cleaned up. So it's not really a car that needs to be restored, but there's some stuff that needs to go over on it just to make showroom.
Okay. So pretty amazing. Do you want to start showing us maybe like the inside of the hood or the bonnet type area? You had the clamshell open and we could see how some of that looks.
Yeah, not much in here. It's pretty sparse. A lot of just down to business.
Yep. So the double suspension, that's a key item there for the Ford. So that's amazing.
Yeah. Yeah, cooling and battery. That's really all that lives up there.
Okay.
And then inside, it's pretty neat. A lot of
Yeah, so that part there is going to be difficult. Remember,
and then there's the two shifters, because it has the transmission with the adjustable center diff, so you can vary the drive ratio front to rear.
Is
Still
that
there,
an
Chris?
active item? Like, for instance, that's something the driver can adjust, at the
Yeah.
time during a stage or something, I guess?
Yeah, on the fly, you can adjust so it can be rear wheel drive, percentage front to rear, or all wheel drive.
Wow.
And then little stuff like you see the trim is kind of bulky. The cage is already all in there. And it even has some stuff like the comms hookup for your helmet.
Okay.
And I'm just going to put this down here for a sec. Hopefully it don't lose you.
Yeah. Yeah, that's pretty amazing.
Very cool.
So with the regular street cars, some of them didn't have like the bigger intercooler across the top there. And a few other pieces. I'm actually really impressed with a lot of the technology, if you will, for the time period that's in on the engine. So it's a pretty interesting piece.
So what do you see that you like from a fellow who works on everything?
So I was looking at this assembly right here and kind of going over it because it's a little unusual looking. And that's a pair of fuel injectors, but they use it to regulate air that goes over to the wastegate so it can work as a boost controller. So basically you have intake manifold pressure coming in, and they can pulse the injector to work either the top or the bottom of the diaphragm.
Oh, wow. Okay. So these are all little tricks that they've learned over time, I can tell.
Yeah, well, I think some of that stuff is fairly, when you consider the mid 80s, I think that's pretty neat stuff.
Yep, exactly. So do you see any, like for instance, many of the manufacturers justified their work in rally by not only by increasing obviously popularity, but also by derivative, we've strengthened XYZ, or we now know that this works better, therefore we'll apply it to road cars. Do you see anything in the Ford engine there that's now you would have said, okay, this is fairly standard, or really this is special? Because I mean, this was Group B stuff, so it's pretty bespoke and pretty special on its own.
Yeah, well, I think even at the time period, like it does have a distributor down underneath with really nothing hooked to it. It's just a trigger. And then it has a DIS pack on it, which was more commonplace maybe a little bit later. So I think that's something that's kind of ahead of the curve on.
So it's using the distributor as like instead of a cam sensor kind of thing. Is that the idea?
Yeah, it has one with no wires or anything on it that is just using as the trigger mechanism.
Okay, that's pretty neat. That's pretty amazing.
Wow.
So I've been reading about some of the Group B stuff. People were really extreme at the time. In terms of how they were approaching racing. One story that I liked a lot was the Lancia team were always very strict on their tires. And one of the engineers had figured out that, you're not allowed to do certain things with the tires at the time. But he had figured out that if you had removed some of the tread, which you're allowed to do,
yeah,
the car would pick up stones in the tread and act as like little nails, or studs in the tires to give additional traction.
Right.
So, it was like strategic type of, well, I'm not cutting it to put something there. I'm cutting it so that something will get jammed in and then add additional traction. So, I mean, the amount of stuff that people were trying and doing at the time, competition is pretty crazy for stuff like that.
That's the sign of a good crew chief.
Yeah.
The other thing I was thinking, like, the cars are rare enough as it is already, and then I wonder how many of them came with the extra rally lights.
Yeah, I mean, that's obviously factory, right? They did, or by the team added that. It's not something that the end user ever did. So
Yeah, that's in the factory piece. The Ford logo is tucked underneath it.
so it probably has an upgraded alternator, I'm guessing, and
Yeah, you'd want that just to drive all that. The other interesting thing with this car, the gentleman that had it that was going to sell the cars, he never registered it. So Anthony is technically the first owner of the car.
oh, nice.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, he drove it with a dealer plate or something like that, never actually titled it. And we're the first one with our name on the title. So that's neat.
Oh, that's really nice. So you're
Very
the first
cool.
owner.
Yeah.
Anthony completes his dream of being the first owner of an RS200 just a little bit later.
Yeah.
Well, you know
And
what's nice
then
is that there's
with the
stories
car
like these of
came,
these cars still being out there.
a lot of parts, which I haven't got into. They just showed up. So I know we have like the original seats. He had added those seats into it. And then I have the original tires that the car rolled off the line with.
Oh, wow.
Boxes of brochures that he had done up to be able to market and sell the cars.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure what all else, because this literally just showed up before you called. So I got to go through all this stuff. That's
Oh,
all spares
fantastic.
Wow.
It's always nice to have a suitable spare parts bin.
Oh, especially for one of these.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
So it's going to be I'd be working on one. I've never really seen one, so I've read a lot about them, but yeah, it's going to be a very neat experience.
Yeah.
Do you want to have a look at the underside as far as how the drive works, or?
Yeah, we'd love to see how it goes back and forward. Absolutely. We can.
Sure.
So this is certainly going to make everybody want to put something on their Christmas list, whether it's a model or whether it's the real car. Or for those who have a shop at home, able to put a lift in your back in your garage. And Sean, this is just to confirm, this will be posted on YouTube on the VARAC page, so you'll be able to share it with whoever you like online, no problem.
So let's start at the back here.
Yeah, still there, so that's great. So this is as the car showed
So
up.
because
I mean,
the
it's never been
engine's-
outside, right?
No, this is how it is. And there's only 3,000 kilometers on, so like all these paint marks I'm going to be documenting, because actually everything on it is how it came. So.
And the car hasn't had time to even properly work itself in, so barely broken out.
Yeah. So we got the engine, and it's on an angle. So then when it comes out of the bell housing, the power has to go through this box to offset it to the front of the car.
So that's like a V drive, probably?
Something like that, yeah. I haven't got into that just yet to look into it. And then the power comes out of there through that drive shaft and into the front mounted transmission, transaxle.
Yeah. I mean, it's just so nice. It's amazing. You know, there's no rust anywhere. You're just gonna be able to.
Yeah.
factory fresh. It's so cool.
Yeah, even yeah, like I say, all the little markings, all the little stuff. It's not like you have to go and look up at how it was done or how, you know, to keep it original. It's already like that.
Yeah.
And then out of the transmission, it drives back down through the length of it through this shaft to the rear drive beside the engine.
Okay. So it goes forward, then back. Awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. Very clean.
So see, they've obviously started to learn about undercar dynamics, you know, when they're building these, you know, 80s cars are notorious for having all kind of nonsense underneath. This one at least has either skid plates or some kind of aerodynamics underneath. So
Yeah. And it's funny because I don't think that aero was a huge concern because the, you know, when you look at the clamshell, a lot of that is just for getting air in and out. There's some aero obviously in it. But yeah, I think the idea of collecting debris under the car during a rally, there's nothing to grab anything.
yeah. Yeah, I mean the speeds that they're going, it wasn't necessarily top speed, right? Some of them, the Safari Rally, I would guess, would be a few, but there's not very many that require a high speed. So
Yeah,
they're really
it's
looking
not,
for acceleration, which is this car was built for.
yeah, it's not aero like what I'm used to on that.
Yes. So that was, so we're gonna get to that car in just a little bit. So that's extra bonus stuff. That's really nice. And how have you seen for like electronics? Does that look like I mean, the car is still pretty new, so I would assume there's not a, you know, that's not gonna be too complicated.
No, it's everything on them is really well labeled. Like every piece of the harness is marked out nicely. It's compared to what we deal with now, it's pretty good, pretty basic.
Yeah. Well, you know, they were made to be fixed on the side of the road with a rock, right? So you have to be able to identify quickly what the particular issue is or what you want it to deal with. So
yeah, and that's something else that when you're talking about being worked on the side of the road, these extra lights that are in behind the clamshell, there's micro switches that as soon as you lift that clamshell up, those lights come on. So that if you're on the side of the road during a rally, then all of a sudden you're visible with the clamshell open.
oh yeah, so they've already thought about that. Yes.
Yeah,
and which means
also there's a,
you know, with racing, right, everything's learned through a mistake. So obviously somebody got boinked sometime by the side of the road and Ford figured, I don't want that to happen to me.
yeah, we got to find a way to curb that possibility.
Yeah. Really nice. Okay, well, I'm going to open it up for other people who have questions. You know, just go ahead and unmute yourselves and go ahead and ask Bart. And then if we're lucky, we'll get some time to look at the other cars as well. I see a little bug there, pretty neat. All right, so if anybody has any questions, either put your hand up or go ahead and unmute and go ahead and ask. Otherwise, we can just bask in the glory of this thing. Perfect. All right, so Bart, so tell us a little bit about.
I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
What's the goal for this car? Is it just going to sit in the garage forever, or is it going rallying? Is it going racing?
Oh,
is it going street?
No, it won't. We won't be racing it. I don't think they're kind of too rare for that, but we would definitely be driving it. It is a street vehicle. We tend to drive everything that we have. We don't have anything that really sits. So we'll get it fixed up and cleaned up to where it's more showroom, and then we will drive it.
Maybe you could drive it over to the Vintage Grand Prix in June. You know, that would be a fun event.
Yeah, I would almost guarantee that'll happen. Any of the other cars that I've restored, like the Pantera and some of the other pieces, Anthony's always drove it down, or I've driven something down.
Perfect. If you need somebody to drive it back, let us know.
I'd like to see a demo run of that at the Grand Prix, Vintage Grand Prix.
Yeah, that'd be kind of neat. I'm looking forward to hearing what it sounds like.
Yeah.
Well, good.
Maybe on the infield, not on the track, eh?
No, on the track.
Yeah, how much
And then
grass are we
running off into
allowed?
the rally cross style.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Be
you have to
arranged to
take
have
your-
the Sprongles bring an Audi, sit it beside it when if you're there.
Yeah, there's a thought.
It'd be
Yeah.
cool if somebody had like an Integrale or something too. We could have all the rally cars out there. It'd be something neat.
Don't you have one, Chris?
Oh yeah, that's right. Exactly. So let's talk about, well, if anybody else has any other questions. All right, so Bart, I saw that we have Jack's car out there as well.
Yeah.
So Jack, I happened to see one of the races that Jack was participating in on TSN. And I think in this race, he finished second overall. I don't know if it was the last FEC race, FEL race, sorry, or the second to last one at Mosport.
Yeah, that was the last first in class and second overall.
Yeah.
He was running the leader down, but there was really no reward to winning overall.
Yeah, I mean, that's what happened, right? With 3 laps to go, he was like 20 seconds out, and the commentators are like, well, that'll be how this finishes. And then it's like 2 laps to go, he's 5 seconds out. It's like, well, wait a second. And with 1 lap to go, you know, he's corner 8, corner 9. He's like, okay, well, he might pass him. So they're like, okay.
All Friday, we worked really, like Jack and I worked hard to be really good on old tires.
Yeah.
And while everybody else was practicing on stickers, we practiced on leftovers from Calabogie. So we kind of just got quicker while everybody started to drop off a bit.
Well, significant drop off for the other teams. I mean, I remember them saying that, you know, these tires, and I think even the fellow who finished first isn't one who normally finishes first. So he was probably not used to leading the race, I think, if I remember correctly either. So,
Yeah. So
this is a GT4 spec Mustang, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
So versus what GT4 means in Ontario, GT4 Global is a different thing. And then you can take this car and race it anywhere on the globe with the same rules and same package.
So which one is this? Is this a Ford GT4 or it's a
GT4 Global?
Okay, GT4 Global.
So an FIA class.
Yeah. So is this one of the Multimatics kind of derived ones, or?
It's Multimatics championship car.
Okay. So the rules for GT4 Global, I mean, there's a lot of stuff you can't touch, right? So like the engines are like sealed, and I don't know about others. So
Engine is pretty much off limits. It runs a Hollinger paddle shift box. So there's a compressor here that drives the paddle shifters.
Mm-hmm.
And then everything is really, all your adjustments are aero and suspension. It's really tightly regulated. After every race, you roll through tech and they take all their measurements as far as suspension, ride heights, and various other things. And then I have to download all the data and hand it to Fel so they can review all the data and make sure nobody's doing anything funny. And that happens every race.
Right. One of the chips has to be, there's like an SD card or whatever you have to hand over. I remember reading about that from the ECU to see if there's anything going on. So how much stuff are you able, like for instance, during a race, there's only a limited amount of things that you can twist and turn, you know, to increase or decrease as it is, right? It's not.
Yeah. So what Jack has available at him is we have 13 settings of ABS intensity and 8 settings of traction control intensity that he can adjust on the fly.
Okay, and so this is some of the stuff that Jack would have been practicing with the older tires. He says, okay, well, setting number 6 is a really good one. You know, otherwise it's too much. Yes, okay.
Yeah, so we can start out the race at a certain level, and then as the grip level reduces, he can kind of come back to something. So on corner exit, it's still grabbing the pavement. A lot of the adjustments that we made on Friday were more aero and suspension to get it good.
Mm-hmm.
Like a degree of wing angle makes massive changes on this car.
To the point of, are you looking at weather? Like for instance, windy, not windy? You know, we've had some pretty windy days at most sport, makes a big difference. Certainly for me in an open top car. So I can only imagine with high speeds.
The wing angle changes were down through corner 2, corner 4, that it was really affecting it. Because through corner 4, for example, he exits corner 3 and he clicks up till he's into 5th gear and goes basically flat out through corner 4.
Wow.
Yeah, you can see all the door is all carbon,
Okay.
and including the roof panel. This piece is cut out, and that's all carbon.
Okay.
Wow.
That's quite a machine.
Yeah, it's a neat piece. It was a real good steep learning curve for me as well.
What does the car weigh approximately, and how much horsepower would it make?
So horsepower wise, they're really just a 5-liter. It's in around the 500 horsepower mark, and you're not messing with that. We have to weigh a certain amount depending on the track. I'm trying to think back to, because it's all in kilograms. But Fell and FIA and whatnot, they dictate, depending on the track, what my ride heights are and what the weight is. So there's actually a weight box on the passenger side that I add or subtract, and I try to keep myself maybe within like a 5-pound buffer of what their minimum is. Right around 25 pounds though.
2,500 pounds, is that what you said?
Yeah, I think you can get it down to that, but they weigh you up to whatever they want.
Okay. And you don't have a round number of how much it weighs?
I want to say that it was it's been a while since I've had to look at the Fell sheets. I'm thinking it was like 26 a little over 2,600 kilograms. That makes sense.
Okay.
Look at the file.
So 2,600 kilograms is more than 5,000 pounds. So I don't know.
Hang on. No, that's
Probably weighs less than that.
No, I'm thinking of something else. Set up. Sorry, 1,490 kilogram.
Yeah. So 2.2. So it's around like 3,500 pounds, something like that. So
yeah.
32 something. Okay, that's pretty neat. 3,000 pounds. Wow, amazing. So they really are lightweight. I mean, that's something else.
Pretty good for a big sedan. Like the cars that he's competing against, like not directly against, but the other classic cars, the TCRs, are obviously a fair bit lighter.
Yeah, so I think in fact the car that race that I did see, it was an Audi LM3. I think that was in front of him. I don't remember exactly. Yes.
Yeah, and they have about 100 equal.
Yeah, we missed that part.
Sorry. So the TCR cars, they're about 100 pounds, or sorry, 100 horsepower less. But obviously, because of the weight, the power to weight turns out to be fairly equal to these.
Yeah. Pretty neat. And one that has a very different power to weight is the car that's parked behind it.
Yeah, very much so.
Formula V in the rough.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, there's your engine for your Formula V.
Yeah, that'd be nice.
So this is a little sport bug. Anthony had one when he was younger, and then I'm in the works of picking away at this one. So it's going to have, I got to change it to 4-wheel disc, better suspension, and then this engine and another transmission are going into it.
Okay, another nice winter project. So Anthony likes his Volkswagens. I mean, I think he had or raced maybe a Carmagia at the time. I think to remember.
Still have yeah, we still got the Carmagia.
Yeah,
that engine in the Carmagia. That's a Porsche 914-6.
Okay.
Very
And
cool.
yeah, he always liked the bugs, and yeah, still always kind of get back to those.
Very good. And then the snowmobiles I see, is Jack going to be competing in that series again this winter?
So Jack's going to run a little bit. He's not going to do the full series. So he's got college commitments and other things going on. So we'll run a couple races. We had to sign on because we're a factory Skidoo team. So we had to sign on last year to keep that up.
Okay.
And then this little sled is actually Jack's first sled. And my grandson started racing that one last year.
Oh, wow.
Oh.
Really nice.
Yeah.
Well, Bart, again, thank you very much for the time that you gave to us today to show this off. It's very appreciated. Thank you. Very generous to give your time like that. Does anybody have any other questions or any comments that they wanted to share?
No.
No, I don't think, where are you located, Bart?
Bart, I don't know if you heard that. You're in Lindsay proper, correct?
Lindsay, yeah.
Lindsay, right, okay. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Have to come
No
see you
problem.
for my next Ford.
Yeah, okay. Sounds good.
so Bart, you know what our connection is, right?
No.
So my aunt is Margot Fawcett. So, of course, who lived in Lindsay for a long time. And the funny thing is that whenever I would race, I would stay at her house when I'd go down to Mosport. And when we would race, I'd show the
Okay.
race videos, and she'd always ask me to fast forward to the part where Anthony shows that up. Because she was very little interested in what I was doing, but very interested in what Anthony was doing. So it's always been very funny for me. All right, Bart. Well, thank you very much. And thank you everybody
Yes,
for
thank
showing
you.
up. I appreciate it.
Thanks,
And
Chris, well done.
look forward
All
to
right.
the next one. So thank you.
Good stuff. Thanks.
Thanks, Bart.
Thank you, Bart. Bye-bye.